Mike Johnson, Darren Dreger alongside the insiders, the other insiders, Pierre Lebrun and Chris Johnston, just a few minutes away. Okay, so Trade Center itself, maybe there won't be many trades. Maybe there will be. But the trade deadline period, punctuated by this week, punctuated by today, has to be one of the craziest we have ever seen. When you consider, we know Patrick Kane's going to be a Ranger, Ekholm to Edmonton. Rod was talking about all the Leaf deals. Do you remember anything like this?
Not for the volume and not for the players of consequence. And I think one of the real criticisms of the NHL in the last several years is that the salary cap has made it very difficult to be active in the trade market. And I think the game is more interesting when players are changing teams and when general managers are able to find ways to make those deals happen. So the volume of deals, the quality of players going around, the willingness to part with draft picks in 26, 27. I feel like I'm watching an NBA trade deadline. It's fantastic. And I think shuffling the deck and trying to load up for the playoffs is good for the game. And I don't remember anything quite this busy.
Not this early, leading up to the trade deadline on Friday. I mean, you look around what we've seen to this point, especially today, and if I dial in on the Edmonton Oilers, that's a team that really focused on Mattias Ekholm. And that's not to say that, you know, they weren't close on other pieces. I know that Ken Holland, the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, felt like there was something closing in on Jake Chychrun at one point late yesterday afternoon. Obviously didn't come together. Maybe the Arizona Coyotes decided that they were going to back off. But in Mattias Ekholm, the Edmonton Oilers are over the moon. They get a piece that they like. They didn't have to give up Bouchard. They didn't have to give up some other assets. And I'm not sure that the Oilers are done yet. They might have more going on.
So what does Ekholm do for the Oilers?
Well, he solidifies their top four big time. He's played a meaningful role on good teams, a very good defensive defender, can transition the puck out of there, can play either side as well. Will take a lot of the burden away from Darnell Nurse, who can sometimes be overwhelmed by trying to do too much. And he comes, you know, at a high price, as you heard Ryan Rashad talk about all the stuff they had to give up, including Tyson Barrie, who was pivotal of that great power play. But I think as far as defensively, which is where Edmonton had to get better, they get upgraded in that defensive position. And when you have the kind of offense they have, and the power play should be okay with Bouchard or whoever else is going to run it. Yeah. It is just about getting but defensively because the Western Conference, it's so available out there, they had to make this move.
The Leafs, when you start with the O'Reilly trade, which was a couple of Fridays ago, so 11 days with 3 today, 5 trades. What does this say about Kyle Dubas and the Leafs?
Well, we got to stop asking the question, is Toronto all in? I mean, it's gone beyond that, and now you're approaching a point of where you have to be careful that you don't tinker too much moving forward. You know, Kyle Dubas believes in the core of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we know who that is, starting with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. But now he's insulated that core. He's upgraded his forward group. He's upgraded the defensive core of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He hasn't touched goaltending, but there's still time. Not saying that he needs to do that. But it's been curious as to how he's managed this. And there is so much cap influence, you know, when you lead up to trades like this, which is why things went down the way they did today with Rasmus Sandin going to the Washington Capitals, recouping a first-round draft pick that the Caps got from the Boston Bruins. And then Pierre Engvall goes to the New York Islanders. Well, that gives him a little bit more cap flexibility for a third-round pick. A third-round pick goes to Vancouver for Luke Schenn. Again, depth in a position that they feel like they need. Is Toronto done? It's hard to say. I think that they are. I believe that they are, but he's done a lot.
I think it's worth remembering, though, that the Leafs will only be as successful as their best players, their core players, which I think by doing all these things, I think Kyle Dubas is once again telling those group of players, I believe in you. I haven't given you the right mix around you. And this mix of players that he's added are a little bit different than some of the other teams that they've gone into the playoffs with in personality and sort of the vibe around the team. But I think it's not an indictment of those core players. It's more saying, you know, it's on us to give you more support. But at the end of the day, it's Matthews, it's Marner, it's Nylander, Tavares, it's Riley. Those guys are going to determine what the Leafs do or do not do in the playoffs.
It's like a good team contender version of a rebuild, where you have your core, but you rebuild everything around it to hopefully make you more successful.
Doesn't it tell you, though, that Kyle Dubas would acknowledge that a 110-point team wasn't built the way he wanted it to be built to be successful in the playoffs?
Quickly, Patrick Kane to the Rangers. Where does, in this craziness in the East, where does Rangers with Kane put them in the echelon?
I think he puts them at 6, right where they are. I think they're behind the other 5 teams. Well, they're very good. They might be a little bit better as a team, but I don't think they jump over a Jersey.
Old school dude, man, Patty Kane. I mean, he could have opted to stay with Chicago until the end of the year, get that hip fixed, and then get healthy and ready for next season. Instead, he's going to continue to get treatment. He is going to battle through. The question I have is, how many pucks are on that ice, and who's playing on the power play for the New York Rangers?
Well, if you're going to bring Patrick Kane in, put him with Panarin, they better be on the power play together.
I had multiple people suggest Trade Center should just be a week-long show, that we just be on the air the entire week before you watch yourselves, okay?